Good morning, you guys. So this morning we are going to look at the text we've been reading this week, the state government and its citizens, and we are going to answer a question based on the reasons and evidence the author used in the text. So we're going to practice restating the question and our answer and how we locate examples and then the text evidence to support those. So the question that we are going to look at this morning is, what evidence does the author use to support her idea? And I'm just going to highlight this because I'm going to analyze this question so I know exactly what I'm answering. That different levels of government often work together to solve problems. So we're looking for evidence that they work together to solve problems. And we've talked about that over the last 2 weeks quite a bit. So this won't be too hard, but we want to make sure that we're using text evidence and not our own thoughts by themselves. So it asked me to reread paragraphs 3 through 5. So I've placed a 3 here under examples and a 5 here under examples because I've obviously looked ahead and there was not much support in paragraph 4, but we're going to look at that together and place our examples in the left column and our evidence in the right column. So I've got my reader here. And I'm looking here at paragraphs 3, paragraphs 4, and then we'll turn the page and look at 5. If you're looking in your reader, we've already annotated and highlighted and stuff. So I'm not actually going to read word for word everything in this paragraph. I'm going to look at my reader on paragraph 3. And I'm looking at what I highlighted because I know when we read together and we made our annotations, we highlighted things that were important. I noticed that each state has its own constitution. We highlighted that here in the first sentence. We noted that the Constitution explains the structure, role, and the work of the state government. So that lets me know what a constitution is. And then the last part talks about how most citizens have more contact with state and local governments than they do with the federal governments, and that, I need to make this smaller, and that the state and local governments handle state and local police, schools, and library. So I see here my first example that the author gave me of 2 levels of government working together. She said the state and the local governments handle state and local police, schools, and library. So I'm going to go back to my chart. And I'm going to put that in my example for paragraph 3. State and local, and this part can be in my own words because it's the example that I found in the text. State and local governments work together to solve problems with, here it is. Let's say dealing with police, schools, and libraries. I don't know if problems is the right word. And almost what I've written here is what it says in the text. So I'm going to move that over, but I'm going to add my quotations to let you know this came word for word from my text, and I'm going to make it word for word. So state and local governments handle state and local police, schools, and libraries. So this is the quote from my text that the author gave me, and here I've restated it in my own words. Okay, we're going to look at paragraph 4. Paragraph 4 just kind of talks about the 3, it just states what the 3 branches of government are, so it didn't give me too many examples or evidence to support the question I'm looking at. So now I'm going to go over here to paragraph 5, and it says no one branch has more power than the other. By design, these branches keep the others from acting unfairly or gaining too much power. We call the system checks and balances. So now I also know from paragraph 5 that an example of how they work together to solve problems is the different branches keep each other from gaining too much power through the system called checks and balances. And again, I'm going to copy and paste this over here, and then I'm going to make sure that I have added the exact wording from my text, which is here we go. By design, these different branches can keep the others from acting unfairly or gaining too much power, period. We call this system checks and, balances. Okay, so there we go, sorry. So there is my examples and my evidence. Now, this was the chart I used to organize my thoughts. I'm going to put this into an answer, okay, because I have to answer the actual question. And Ms. Corbin and I have really been focusing a lot the last week or two on trying to get you guys to get into the practice of this. So when I have a question, and my question says, what evidence does the author use? I'm just going to copy this question. This is the beauty of technology, friends. We can copy and paste. In the classroom, we can't copy and paste. We have to rewrite everything. But I'm going to, with my face, I'm going to unhighlight, and I'm going to undo that. Okay, what evidence does the author use to support her idea? I'm going to restate that. The author explains. So instead of saying the evidence part, we're going to say the author explains that different levels of government often work together to solve problems. Some examples include the state. Here, and I'm gonna cheat, and I'm using my words. I'm using my words here. The state and local governments work together to solve problems dealing with schools, libraries, police, schools, and libraries. She also explained that. And here I'm going to take my second example. And I'm going to change my font all to 1 because that's going to bother me. There we go. Okay, so here we have it. The author explains that different levels of government often work together to solve problems. Some examples include the state and local governments working together to solve problems dealing with the police, schools, and libraries. She also explained that different branches keep each other from gaining too much power through the system called checks and balances. So I've taken my examples from the text, I've provided the evidence exactly word for word from the author, and I've created now a paragraph where I have restated the question. Here's the question restated. And I've provided my 2 examples and given a complete answer with text evidence that answers the question. So we want you guys to start really practicing this as you work through answering questions. what was the question asked? And it could be a science question, it could be a math question. I know Kaylin is really good at doing this when I ask questions in class. She'll restate the question. If I say, what are 2 factors in the product to create 6? She'll say 2 factors are, so we really want you guys to work on restating the question in your answer, because if somebody else were to come up and read your answer and you've not done that, they're going to have no idea what you're talking about. We're not going to understand that we're working together, levels of governments working together, unless I say that. So it was not very difficult. It's just something you have to practice doing. You saw how we went back to the text that we already annotated and made notes with, so that was not really hard to find the answers either, because we'd already located them because they were key details. And just putting them into a really structured answer that responds specifically to the question we were asked. You guys are going to get a little more time today in your reading class to practice this, and then we'll be expecting this with any questions that we ask along the way in our class. So I hope that you have seen that it doesn't have to be hard to think smart and to use our author's evidence in our answers, so that we know that our answers are accurate, they're correct, and that they are complete. We will see you guys in a little bit. You do not have to write this down. We just wanted you to watch this, kind of follow along and see how it works, because you'll be doing it later in class. Have a wonderful day.